She won't tell you the truth because the truth shifts the balance of power. Every man has felt it, the strange moments, when her words say one thing, but her actions cut in the opposite direction. This is where most men lose themselves, trapped in confusion and chasing answers she'll never give. In this video, we uncover what women don't want men knowing, the hidden mechanics of female psychology that shape every relationship power dynamic. You'll see why stoic detachment isn't coldness, but a weapon that protects your value as a man, keeps your masculine frame unshaken, and turns emotional discipline into quiet dominance. This is about more than relationships. It's about reclaiming control over the battlefield you didn't even know you were standing on. When you learn this, you stop playing by her rules. The question is, when the veil drops, will you be ready to act? Point number 1. The unseen tests that strip your frame. Have you ever felt the weight of a hug that didn't feel the same as before? Her arms wrap around you, but her body is slightly distant, her mind somewhere else. She says nothing, but you feel the question she's asking without words. That's the silent test. It's not about affection. It's about whether your sense of self depends on her warmth. This is where most men break, reading too much into the shift, chasing reassurance, trying to fix something they can't name. That's when your frame slips and you start playing her game instead of your own. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This isn't a reminder. It's a command. In that moment, the hug is not a gift you're owed. It's a stimulus you're meant to master. The truth is simple. Your value as a man cannot live in her arms. Think of a stoic soldier returning home after months at war. His wife greets him warmly, but she studies him as much as she embraces him. He feels it, but he doesn't flinch. He knows her affection might be steady or it might have shifted. Yet his sense of self stays rooted in his own discipline, not her approval. That's masculine control. That's emotional discipline in practice. Modern men face the same battlefield, but without swords or shields. The weapons are subtle. In female psychology, a change in physical affection can be a test of dominance. In relationship power dynamics, she wants to know if you'll react, if your emotional control will crumble, if you'll start negotiating for validation. The moment you do, you've traded stoic detachment for dependence, and dependence is the first sign of weakness she can sense. You resist not by hardening into stone, but by mastering stillness. You let her warmth or her distance exist without becoming a storm inside you. This is stoic silence, and not coldness, but clarity. A hug can be a gift or it can be bait. If you can't tell the difference, you're already caught. Your worth does not expand or shrink with her level of affection. Your worth lives in the unshakable center you guard against the chaos of emotion. So here's the challenge. The next time you feel that subtle shift, a slower embrace, a colder hand, a momentary withdrawal, don't rush to close the gap. Instead, pause. Let her feel your calm. Let her see you unbent. Train yourself to welcome the test, because every test passed is another layer of armor between you and emotional collapse. If you can't hold your center in the smallest touch, how will you hold it when she challenges the core of who you are? And if you think that was subtle, wait until you see how her emotions can turn into your battlefield without you ever realizing it. Point number 2, how her emotions become your battlefield. She doesn't need to raise her voice to pull you into a war. It starts smaller than that. A sigh at the wrong time, a look that lingers too long, a sudden silence over dinner. You feel the shift before you can name it. Most men take the bait without even knowing it's bait. They step into her emotional terrain, trying to win back the peace, trying to fix what they don't fully understand. But once you're inside her emotional frame, you're not the general anymore. You're the soldier fighting battles she chooses. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." That's exactly how this battlefield works. You start imagining what you might have done wrong. You replay conversations, you analyze her tone, you negotiate with a storm that exists more in your mind than in hers. And while you're distracted, your frame erodes piece by piece. The Stoics knew this well. Picture a Roman commander in a foreign land. The enemy tries to lure him onto ground they control, where every step forward is a trap. The disciplined commander refuses. He forces the fight on his own terms, on his own ground. That is the essence of masculine control. You don't enter her storm. You make her emotions weather themselves against your stillness. In female psychology, emotions are not just feelings, they're tools. Sometimes conscious, sometimes instinctive. Withdrawal, sudden affection, tears, indifference. Each one can shift Relationship power dynamics. If you let it dictate your reactions. The moment you start adjusting your value as a man based on her emotional state, you've already surrendered the advantage. Stoic detachment is not the absence of feeling. It's the refusal to let another person's waves throw you off your course. Emotional discipline means you see her anger without fearing it. You hear her silence without rushing to fill it. You witness her joy without trying to claim it as proof of your worth. You stand in your own ground unmoved, not because you don't care, but because your foundation is not for rent. Here's your mental challenge. The next time she tries to pull you into her emotional weather, whether it's a cold front or a heat wave, ask yourself, is this my battlefield? If the answer is no, hold your position. Let her emotions come and go, like passing clouds, while you keep your eyes fixed on your own horizon. Because if you lose yourself in her weather, you'll never see the moment when she uses it to shift the entire war in her favor. And that war becomes even more dangerous when you start explaining yourself, thinking you're clearing the air, but really you're just handing her the map to every weakness you have. Point number 3. The silent cost of explaining yourself. You think you're clearing the air, but you're actually giving her the blueprint to dismantle you. Explaining yourself feels harmless, even noble. You believe that if she just understood your intent, the tension would dissolve. But in female psychology, every extra word you give under pressure is a small surrender of frame. She's not only hearing your defense, she's reading your need for her approval. That's when the shift happens. You've moved from masculine control to emotional dependence without even noticing. Epictetus said, if you seek truth, you will not seek victory by dishonorable means. If you seek victory, you will not be misled by mere appearances. In other words, the moment you explain yourself to win her back, you're no longer anchored to truth. You're anchored to the appearance of peace. That's not Stoic detachment. That's negotiation with your own value. The Stoics face this test in their own way. Imagine a statesman accused falsely in the Roman Forum. Every instinct urges him to clear his name. But the wise one knows, the more you argue, the more power you give to the accusation. His silence isn't weakness, and it's a shield that refuses to legitimize the charge. In modern relationships, this plays out quietly. She says something sharp, maybe questions your intentions, maybe hints you've fallen short. You rush to explain and to prove loyalty to patch the invisible wound, but each justification is a crack in your masculine frame. Relationship power dynamics tilt when she sees that her disapproval moves you more than your own internal compass. Stoic silence isn't about arrogance. It's about emotional discipline, choosing not to hand over the keys to your peace. Your value as a man doesn't come from convincing her you're right. It comes from living so aligned with your own principles that her belief in you is optional. You don't need her agreement to validate your path. Here's the challenge. Next time you feel that pressure to defend yourself, stop. Take one slow breath. Ask yourself, am I speaking to clarify the truth or to repair her perception of me? If it's the second, hold your words. Let her sit with her thoughts. Let the silence speak for you. In time, you'll see that the cost of explaining is always higher than the cost of being misunderstood. Because the moment you hand her the story of your intentions, you've also handed her the weapon to rewrite it. And that weapon becomes even sharper when you let her lead, thinking it will create harmony. But in reality, it only erodes the respect you're trying to preserve. Point number 4. Detachment as your hidden power. Detachment is not about walking away from her. It's about walking away from the invisible leash she keeps tied to your emotions. Most men think they're calm until the woman they want pulls back, withholds warmth, or shifts her tone. That's when they realize they've been living with a quiet dependency. Her approval becomes oxygen. Her attention becomes currency. And when she senses that, she owns the exchange rate. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Detachment is that realization in motion. It's not coldness. It's not neglect. It's refusing to make your self-worth a hostage to her emotional weather. The Stoics practice this in the most brutal conditions. Picture a commander whose army suffers losses. He doesn't collapse into grief. He doesn't fake joy to keep morale. He adjusts, decides, and moves with the clarity of one who knows his role to govern himself before governing others. That's the same discipline modern men need when navigating female psychology. In relationship power dynamics, her emotions will always fluctuate. Some days she'll light up when you enter the room. Other days she'll barely meet your eyes. If your frame rises and falls with her mood, You've surrendered masculine control. Stoic detachment is the countermeasure. It says, I see you, I feel you, but I am not ruled by you. Emotional discipline here means responding from principle, not reacting from impulse. If she's distant, you don't chase. If she's affectionate, you don't cling. If she tests you, you don't flinch. Your value as a man is carried in the fact that you are consistent, the same in calm seas and in storms. This steadiness is unnerving to anyone who relies on your reaction for leverage. The challenge? Train yourself to notice the pull. Every time you feel that urge to move just because she did, pause, hold position, let her see that your ground is not negotiable. Detachment doesn't weaken connection. It filters it. The ones who stay will respect it. The ones who leave were never meant to lead you anywhere worth going. Because the man who can't detach will always be led. And the man who can will never have to fear losing himself, even when she turns your value into a bargaining chip. And that's exactly where the next battle is fought, when your worth becomes the currency in her game. Point number 5. When your value becomes her leverage, it happens quietly. One day she's drawn to your strength, your independence, the way you carry yourself without needing her approval. Next, she's learned the exact moments you break the pattern. She's mapped the pressure points, where your need for closeness outweighs your discipline. And that's when your value stops being something she respects. It becomes something she can spend. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." Freedom in this context is the ability to keep your worth out of another's hands. Once she knows your deepest emotional hooks, the battlefield shifts. She doesn't need to threaten you outright. A pause in affection here, a question of loyalty there, a subtle comparison to another man. In female psychology, these are not random. They are currency. The more you react, the more the exchange rate tilts against you. The Stoics understood the danger of allowing anyone to set the terms of your value. Imagine a merchant in the ancient market who lets buyers dictate the worth of his goods. The price will always be lowered. The same applies to you. In relationship power dynamics, once you allow her perception to set your worth, you've agreed to a bargain you cannot win. Masculine control demands that your value as a man is fixed by your own measure. Emotional discipline ensures you don't offer discounts just to maintain peace. This doesn't mean you're rigid or unfeeling. It means you refuse to negotiate your self-respect for temporary comfort. The moment she senses that your fear of losing her outweighs your fear of losing yourself, leverage shifts entirely in her favor. Here's the challenge. Notice the trades. Every time you bend on principle for a touch of approval, every time you soften your boundaries to avoid her cold shoulder, mark it. Ask yourself, would I make this choice if I had nothing to lose? If the answer is no, you're in the transaction she designed, not the life you command. Because when your value becomes her leverage, she doesn't need to fight for respect. You've already handed it over in exchange for connection. And that's when the most ruthless test arrives, when she learns that the man she respects most isn't the one who stays, but the one who can walk away. Point number 6. Walking away is the ultimate control. Walking away is not about punishing her. It's about proving to yourself that you were never trapped. Most men imagine they'll have the strength to leave if they need to. But that strength doesn't magically appear at the breaking point. It's built long before. In every small moment you choose self-respect over emotional compromise. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Walking away is the purest expression of that principle. When the ground beneath you becomes a place where your values erode, your frame weakens and your peace is bought and sold, the Stoic path is not to plead or bargain. It is to step out of the arena entirely. The ancients knew this well. A Roman general who finds himself surrounded does not stay to fight a losing battle out of pride. He withdraws, regroups, and preserves his strength for a war worth winning. In modern relationships, this is masculine control. At its highest form, the refusal to spend your life in a place where emotional discipline is constantly undermined. In female psychology, the man who can leave without bitterness commands more respect than the man who stays out of fear. Relationship power dynamics shift instantly when she knows that your presence is a choice, not a dependency. She may test to see if she can push you past your limit. Most men react with anger or desperation. The Stoic man reacts with stillness and, if necessary, with absence. Walking away is not an act of spite. It's the visible proof of Stoic detachment that your value as a man is untouchable, even in loss. It's the understanding that love without respect is a chain, and no chain is worth wearing. Your challenge is simple but brutal. Visualize leaving before you need to. Picture the moment clearly. Feel the resistance in your chest, the pull of comfort, the fear of the unknown. Then strip it of power. The man who has rehearsed walking away will never be cornered into staying somewhere he doesn't belong. Because the ultimate control is not winning every battle inside the relationship. It's knowing you can end the war entirely, on your terms. And when you master that, you're ready for the final lesson: how to turn silence itself into the loudest form of power. Every test she gives you is quiet at first. The hug that feels different, the shift in her mood, the sharpness in her words, the moment she waits for you to explain yourself. Each one is a thread, and if you pull on it the wrong way, you unravel your own frame. You've seen how her emotions can become your battlefield, how explaining yourself gives her the map to your weaknesses, how detachment becomes the shield she can't pierce, how your value can be turned into her leverage, and how walking away is the final act of control. This isn't about being cold, it's about being unshakable. The man who stands in stillness forces the world to bend around him, not the other way. Female psychology will always test you, but every test is a chance to sharpen your masculine control, to practice emotional discipline, and to live by your own measure of value as a man. The truth is simple. The moment you stop needing her approval to validate who you are, you move from being tested to being untouchable. And once you become untouchable, you stop playing a game you were never meant to lose. If this message hit you where it needed to, subscribe to Stoic Truth. Here, we cut through the noise, strip away the illusions, and teach you how to stand like a man who cannot be moved. Your training starts the moment you decide your frame is worth more than her tests. The choice is yours.